know you can handle it though. Just let me know what you need. Now, I ain't never heard of them.
Kids can't have those jobs to say, but my mama don't know that I'm on the Curry House, and she at Curry House, his mama don't let her do whatever we want. You gotta be able to communicate. Hey, is my son over there? Oh, he not? Okay, let me see. Most of them got cell phones. Put a track on it. You pay the bill. You know what I'm saying? We can't just give up and say they want it. Like, at the end of the day, they live in your house. You're paying the bills. Nobody is saints, but at the end of the day, there has to be an accountability. Go ahead, bro.
I'm 17, right?
Right.
I got a great mama.
Right.
In my opinion, I got the most perfect mama in the world. This is my whole life. I still ended up getting in the streets.
You better preach, son.
Like, I feel like somebody sitting like young teens in Atlanta, like, well, I'm just saying what it is. I got arrested. I got 2 gun charges, 3 gang charges, right? That's my mom's fault. That's my fault.
Right. Decision making.
Yeah, my mom disciplined me.
Right.
I used to get whoopings every trip.
Right.
Uncle come with me, grandma come with me, auntie come with me, then my mom come with me.
Right.
It's not I feel like in some situations, it's not the parents' fault, it's just our fault. Like, it comes to a certain age when we get to the point when they be like, okay, let me buck the system. Like, we get creepy, let me buck the system. There be sometimes, like, parents not with us 24/7.
Right.
Like, we go to school, you don't know who we chatting with at school. After school, that we hopping on the bus. You don't know if we going straight home after the bus, especially if it's a mama that's working. So I feel like in some scenarios, it's not our parents' fault. But I know I got a perfect mom, and I still made mistakes. And I still did stuff.
What do you feel is the solution? My question to you is, what using yourself as an example to other teens, what can we do as adults or as a team to help another team not have to test the water like you did? Because clearly it wasn't it's not your mama's fault. You chose to do what you did.
Yeah.
So how do we keep the next kid from choosing to do what you did?
I feel like more community help, because I feel like in the Atlanta community, everybody paint an image on everything. Like, for example, I just had dreads. I just cut my dreads off when I got out, right? And that's more of fixing my image, because the image that young teens have, like, you can just be a normal teen. I know it's been multiple times when it's just been me and my homeboys. We probably even do nothing at all, but just be walking around and then folks will be staring at us. It's the stereotypes in this community that makes us act like we do. Because if I'm 13 years old and all I'm hearing about is you gotta stand on business, you gotta fight, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this, you gotta do that to create an image. It's more of the fact like it's the stereotype too. Because if it was no stereotype, or if nobody really knew about all this fighting, hopping in cars, or social media, or this and this and that, it wouldn't be happening. Or it'd be more community help. Because in my opinion, it is programs like this, but they're not really hands-on like they should be. Like, some programs will talk to the team for about 2 to 3 months. Them 2 to 3 months not gonna help them in a year. Them 2 to 3 months not gonna help them when.
Or it's not consistent.
Yeah, when it's not consistent. But if we don't have a consistent person there, or a consistent somebody that's in our ear all the time, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Because sometimes, even as a teen, I don't feel comfortable going to my mom about everything. My mom will ask me questions about certain stuff, and I won't tell her. I feel like more teens in Atlanta. I grew up in Atlanta my whole life. Like, I knew so many folks already. I knew even when I got locked up, I went in there and I had homeboys in it. And it's more the decisions that I was really sitting there and just thinking about it. Like, if we had more help, sometimes it'd be like single parent household. Nobody got no father in their life to teach them how to be a man, so they can hop in the streets to be a man. That was my decision. I had big homies. And now look at me, I got gang charges. Because I went to my big homies because I didn't have no man to really sit there and be like, okay, kid, this and that, or somebody in my ear 24/7.
Like a mentor.
Yeah, like a mentor. But even with mentors not gonna always be consistent. I know I done had a couple mentors, but they'll be consistent for the first 2 months, then stop being consistent. I feel like the community needs to stop with the stereotypes. Even with the APD page, one of my homeboys got arrested. All you see in the comments is folks talking about lock them up, keep them in jail, or this and that because of a simple mistake. You gotta think of our mindset. When I first came out, I was like, I don't want to do it. I just got out of jail. I don't want to be surrounded by police. Instead of making teens dislike the police, I feel like it should be more police officers that sit down, be like, I was there with them. Like y'all, for example, like y'all. I'm gonna keep up though. I'm keep honest. This is the first time I ever heard of y'all. You feel me? Like if this was like a bigger program, then I feel like you would save more teams. Cause I got a whole bunch of homeboys that I can line up that probably need that support. Cause I got some homeboys that I sit there and be like, hey, I don't even want to be in the streets no more. Hey, I want to be at the meeting.
That's why I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm asking you, bring them. We stepping up to the line, and like I told you outside, I'm extending my hand to you, but I can't make you extend your hand back, right? And your friends, because me as a gang detective, the reason that people say lock them up is because some people tired of being victims. They don't care what you've been through. They know that they work hard for whatever they got, and they don't want to lose it, and they don't want somebody taking it. They don't want their whatever it is. And so to some, they look at, as a young black male as an animal, right? And so we got to do something to change that by being. If you need a mentor, you got men right here that'll step up and be there with you, a phone call away. You know what I'm saying?
It's more activities too. It's a lot of idle time.
That's what we gonna talk about. First, you gotta set what's the goals, what's the plan for the next 6 months, the year, 2 years, 5 years. What's the plan? What's the trajectory of your life? It's people in here that got nonprofits, got businesses, they got things that they can put you in to occupy that idle time. You know what I'm saying? Do you know right from wrong? You know you do, because your mama told you. But at the same time, at some point, you gotta step up and be a man too. Can't nobody live for you. You gotta live for yourself. I got expelled from high school, right? But I occupy the same office right now as the director of school safety for my district. Why? Because I made a decision to change myself, and you can too, and we'll help.
And can I say, I'm his parent. And before it got this bad, I filed an unruly report 3 times, and nobody followed up. So if this system's in place to get the help that we need, because he is a good kid, perfect, no. But he is surrounded by a church community. He is, while we have a single home, however, God is blessed us in our house. So he has to make better decisions so he can be successful, but we also need a system in place. So when I'm running down at 3 times and nobody is following up, I'm having to go back and say, well, I called, nobody is calling me because I need some help to get him out the streets. That's it. I'm not blaming anybody. I appreciate law enforcement. You know, and I understand what you're saying, that the victims are getting tired too. You know, but however, we need a little bit more support, you know, when it comes to getting down on this and look, it's possible because even he's told us, you're 17, if you're not committing a crime, there's nothing we can do. We can't make you go to school, you know, we can't really take him to jail because he's not doing anything to that extent.
Yeah, I'm Anderson. I'm probably the oldest police officer, retired police officer in this room. I started policing a month after I graduated, after I turned 21, out of Detroit. Okay, so I was with the gangs and all that up until Detroit. So I know what you're talking about. But what you're missing is that person, like you almost answered, you did answer your own question. Is that person in the street? Who do you respect in the street? That's what I want to ask you that. Who in the street do you respect? That person in the street that you respect should be a person like us. But he don't necessarily have to be a police officer. You understand what I'm saying? He's going to tell you, yo, dog, what you doing out there in the street? The question is, do you respect him? And will you respect him when he tells you, hey, man, you need to go home? If you're not going to do that, Then of course, yeah, you're gonna go down that path you're talking about. I love this young man right here to raise his right hand and swear that he would get some of his buddies to come down here and do the right thing. Because I see a lot in you right now, man. I don't think you have to worry about this young man no more. You 17 years old, you done felt the pain, because the older you get, the more painful those lessons are. Okay? The Panthers told me, no matter what community you live in, you got, somebody got to be a police. Never be afraid to look a man in the eye and be able to tell him your name. Now, a lot of people nowadays don't want to say nothing, don't want to tell nobody nothing. But if you're able to tell a man your name and look him in the eye, he ain't got nothing on you. Okay? I was able to enter the police department because I was never afraid. But I was coming from the streets. I was one of the biggest leaders in the bishops in Detroit, coming out of high school. We wore our hats backwards with the feather in the back. Our belt buckles was in the back. Our belt buckles was in the back. 313 all day long. We went to school. We went to high school armed. Everybody. There was no metal detectors. But when the job came available, Coleman Young instituted the program in Detroit. You had to live in the city, be a city employee. Stepped up there. It was a job. I wasn't afraid. The Panthers had taught us not to be afraid to police your own community. You got to be the police of your community. You got to respect somebody in your community. Now, the Panthers were out there for us. Panther actually pulled me to the side. That's how they did the tutoring and all that. I got math tutoring in those little offices that they raided and firebombed and shot up. I got tutoring in there and I got free lunches in there. But they also taught me, this is my community. You got to take care of your community. Never let your enemy take your brother to jail. That was another lesson they taught us. Okay? So you got to pass that on. We got to pass that on to these young kids. They got to. That's the basics. That's where you start. When they're his age, never be afraid to look a man in the eye and tell him your name. See what I'm saying? Never run from a uniformed officer. They told me this. Never run from a uniformed officer. You got no reason to run from him. You hadn't done nothing. He asked you your name. My name is. Now what? See what I'm saying? From that point, he has, as an officer, what else can we do? I love to hear a young man tell me my name is. I'm ready to, bam, as soon as I hear it. Because I got on the police department, a lot of us got on the police department for a different reason. We got in there to stand in the gap. You understand? It was a whole different kind of police department when I got in. My first field training officer, I'm in the passenger seat. He driving down Mack Avenue in Detroit, splashing citizens on the side of the road. Okay, that was my first field training officer. Yeah, he was a white guy. So when I complained, the next day they put me in with a black officer, so they had to see where I was at. You see what I'm saying? So that's where a lot of us older police officers got on for. Nowadays, we worried about y'all, but we love you. I want you to understand that we love you. I've never been afraid of my teenage kids, my young folks. Never been afraid of them. But there are people who are afraid of you. But when I tell you to do something, I look at you and say, yo, dog, get out of here. Go home. You got to respect that in me. Because I'm in this authority, I'm in this position, I've gotten here for you. I can do this to you. What did I read back there? You got it. You see what I'm saying?
So what he's really saying, he's giving you that information, but if you don't receive it, he can turn his back and walk away and leave you where you at. So that's one thing about it is when you go in these perceptions, and we really appreciate it. One thing about it, let's all give him a round of applause. So the brother right now, because we for bringing him here and let him have the ability to express he expressed what his pain was, and she expressed what her pain is being a mother. Okay? So when we look at our black males and our black youth, we have to go and say, what are we missing? What are we missing? And he gave a platform for us to see what we're missing. Because if most of them would express themselves in that manner and let us know, then we can say, okay, dang, we got to fill the gap, dog. We got to step up to the plate. And we can't do it for 2 months, 3 months. We got to do it for the whole period of time when that person is there and they need us. And say, hey, let's do that. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'll say I work for Target, obviously, and I come from I come from a very diverse, not many blacks in the community, but I know what it feels like to kind of get stereotyped names and like things like that we see. So when I got into HR, that's my biggest thing is to give the youth an opportunity, the black youth an opportunity. But I will say, like, there are some that I'll give an opportunity and they'll work for a little bit, but then they just stop showing up. So it's like consistency on their end too, because of course, like, I'm close to their age. I see, like, you know, like, there is help out there, but they have to want it 100%. Because there are people in positions like myself that I can, for sure, get you a job and get you in there as long as you perform. Like, you can go far, but you just have to be consistent and you have to want it. You can't want it 1 week and then you're no call, no showing, and like that kind of stuff. So there are people in positions for sure. Like, I have hired people. Like, that's literally my job. I do try to look out for the black youth 100%.
You got a question right here? Yeah.
Okay, you doing all right?
Good.
What's your name, bro?
Yeah,
What was it?
Hayden.
Okay. Man, I love what my man was Caleb over here was saying, because he was breaking down something really good. I said I love what my man Caden was over here saying, because he was saying something that was real. It was something that I could relate to. And I appreciate you speaking up. And I'm saying that because when he's talking about consistency, I know a lot of times we get frustrated with our young men because they're not voicing what they need. But when I was his age, I didn't know what I needed. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what I needed. It took me, I'm 37 now. You know what I'm saying? It took me till I was 30 to know what I needed. It took a while to get there. I grew up in a single parent working class household. My mama went there. I don't get to where I am without there being a level of intervention. And so when he's talking about that level of consistency, I'm thinking about my best friend's dad, Mr. Robinson. I lived a mile away from my school. I walked to school, but he would never let me walk back. Because he knew within that mile, there were so many cracks that I could fall in. He took it. Nobody asked him to pick Dante up and take Dante home. He took that on. You know what I'm saying? And this bananas, my wife and I, we took a trip out to Charleston. And we went out to one of the plantations, and I hate even going to slave plantations. You know, it irks me. But I was listening to the historians as they were talking and going through it. There were two things that stood out to me. Is when one of the guys said that, you know, they didn't kidnap anybody from Africa that wasn't skilled. Everybody that they brought over here had a skill. They were doctors, they were architects, they were farmers. The oldest black church in America that was written before the Declaration of Independence in Savannah, to this day, is built far more strongly than what the building codes require. How in the world can folks that they kidnap build something that's much more stronger than they could ever require? So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about the other part when I'm listening to the young lady talk about black poetry. She said on the plantation they were rapping. I said they were rapping on the plantation? The slaves were rapping? Like, that caught me up. I didn't know that. She said, yeah, they had jazz, they had blues, they had everything that they were saying because it was their way of communicating with one another. And I said, nah, man, history books told me rap didn't come out to the 70s. She said, nah, there were patriarchs in that community that would not let any of this stuff go mainstream. So what this brother over here saying is where the patriarchs at. That's what he's saying, and that's what I'm hearing. Because I know had it not been for those patriarchs intervening in me, again, my mother's single parent, working class. And so what we see, he's telling you what he sees. He's telling you what his role models are. And we don't choose our role models at that age. Who we see is who we emulate. And so I appreciate you speaking up, Hayden. I really do, man. Because what he's saying is what, at some point, folks in our generation, we got to take ownership of. We got to, it's not just being on the job and stepping in the guys, it's being hands-on in the community. When he said he ain't seen that, I know we need consistency for them too, but we got to show them how to be consistent. That's going to be on us to teach them how to be consistent. The world don't see it, but them are kids. Whether we them are not. They are kids. And so that's what I appreciate about opportunities like this to come out and speak, because y'all are extending their hand and saying that these are kids. Now we gotta get them killed. We gotta get them to get that. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, he broke it down. That's what it is right there. All that stuff that happened in 2020, that stuff didn't just happen. It's something that's bubbling up. And so until we take stuff like this and take it from here and into the community, and we start touching them, that's where the change is going to be.
The biggest